Oh,
I
now I
don't.
think I can. Yeah.
I don't think she realizes she's on mute.
Introduce yourself.
I had to wait until you came off mute, darling. At any rate, so my apologies, folks. My name is Shakir Rashaan. I am the national best-selling author of 11 and counting novels, including 2 signature series, the Nubian Underworld, as well as the King P.I. series. The book that I'll be reading from tonight is the one that's behind me on my screen, Love, Lust, and Beautiful Liars. This one is literally my latest romantic suspense book as far as what I've been working on throughout this entire throughout this entire year per se. The scene that I'll be reading from is coming from a period where Dorian, my lead character, is at his mother's art exhibit. They actually had this one up in out in North Africa, in Morocco. So while he's dealing with the fact that his mom has decided to take his love interest and have a mother and motherly chat, let's put it that way, there was a blast from his past that actually is tied in through another book. I'll explain that when I get done with the actual excerpt. But they had a nice little conversation in terms of who he was dealing with and whether or not they felt that she was the actual match for her, for him rather. Well, 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 I wouldn't have expected to see you at one of your mom's events. The unmistakable scent announced itself before she said another word. He knew it was her immediately. He'd purchased the intoxicating fragrance once for her birthday. What probably threw him off was why she managed to find herself halfway around the world on tonight of all nights. If I didn't know any better, I would say that I needed to ensure your Secret Service detail does not need to usher me away from you. I wouldn't want Terrell to get the wrong idea. Dorian couldn't contain his grin at the sight of the only other woman on the planet who he could never say no to, Leah McAvoy. She looked as delectable as he remembered, and he'd sworn she'd grown more exquisite over time. He took a head-to-toe accounting of her assets that had matured and become more pronounced since their college years. They'd done nothing more than engage in clandestine flings over the years before she found herself in the employ of then Senator Terrell Warren, the current Vice President of the United States. After that, their relationship took on another dynamic. And while she went on to superstardom on the Hill and eventually in the White House, he eventually became one of the biggest weapons dealers for the Department of Defense. It didn't exactly stop their engagements, of course, but he was aware that Leah's attention and devotion remained with the distinguished gentleman from California. Dorian, some years later, would rekindle the passions with Samara, and Leah would be nothing more than a very close friend, one with connections that would come in handy if and when the situation called for her discretionary involvement. My sir is always aware of where I am at all times, Dorian, and for the record, I'm not on as tight a leash as you remember. Leah licked her lips as she closed the distance between them to give him a more lingering hug and a kiss on the cheek. All it would take is a phone call to let him know that there's some unfinished business that I need to attend to. And he'll simply reply that as long as that unfinished business does not damage what belongs to him, then, well, you know. Dorian was taken aback by the sudden aggression that Leah showed after not seeing each other in person for nearly 5 years. It was like they'd only seen each other last week. Well, he's a better man than I am. I'll give him that. I would never let you out of my sight. And that's why things stayed the way they were between us, pretty boy, Leah replied. But from what I observed earlier, you seem to have a wonderful woman to be for you what I couldn't be. Wait, were you stalking me? Well, I always stalk my prey, even when they don't think they're being stalked. Dorian smiled. It had been a while since he'd been put on the defensive, and Leah was always the one to have that ability. So, does she meet your satisfaction? I'm not the one who needs to know that answer. The question is, does she meet to your satisfaction? If she does, then you need to do something about that, and soon. Women like her are very, very rare. Dorian stared into Leah's eyes for a moment, watching them as they searched through his, nearly looking through to the deepest recesses of his psyche. She nodded with a wry smile, tracing his lips with her fingertips. She does. She's the one. I know, it's written all over you. Leah placed another kiss across his lips, wiping the remnants of her lipstick from his face. I am very happy for you, truly. I would never want you not to be happy. Well, for now I am. Leah raised her eyebrow at his response. That doesn't sound like the Dorian Bentley I know. You sound like you're ready for a change of pace. Have things gotten too easy in the field? Dorian's eyes widened, but he couldn't look away or sidestep the question. I think there's more on the horizon. You might be right. It might be getting a little too easy out there. Well, honestly speaking, I don't think you were meant to do this long term anyway, Leah opined. Perhaps it is time to do what you told me you always wanted to do when we were in school. Your mind is in what you're doing right now, and you're damn good at it, but it was never your passion. Follow your passions, darling, and start with that beautiful creature your mother stole away from you to interrogate. Dorian shook his head as he chuckled. Even after all this time, you're still looking out for me. Well, I always protect my assets, and you have been my longest and most desirable asset. Even if you ever needed me for anything, always know that I'll be there with every resource that I have available to ensure that you're safe. Leah turned to leave, dropping for a brief moment to take another look at Dorian before she disappeared into the crowd. I'll say hello to Mom before I leave. Do you have another piece that you could recommend for the house? My sir has become quite the fan of her work. Dorian grinned. I'm standing right in front of it. Well, consider it sold. Until the next time, my handsome one. And that ends that section. You can find my work, especially my latest. You can find it at www.shakirrashaan.com. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, and Instagram under Shakir Rashaan. Also, my Amazon page as well. And literally any other place and on social media you can find at my website.